Welcome to I Do What I Do, where we explore how and why folks do what they do to forge their path and create fulfilling, squiggly careers. I'm Zara Bartels, once a dancer, now a creative operator. And in this first season, we're in London, once my home for many years. So whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, a creative soul, or just curious about what makes people tick, have a listen. You'll be inspired to do what you do better. Let's go. I'm going to do my clap because, I like to do my clap.
Is that like your take one?
Yes. Yes.
Is that your action?
Yes. And I was told that it sets the sound, and you could see when you're looking at the editing, you could see the spike. So you know that's where it starts.
Nice. Okay.
I'm learning things. So, Ayanna Lloyd Banwo.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome to I Do What I Do.
Happy to be here.
I'm smiling hard because this is one of those beautiful things. I feel like it's going to be weird trying to interview you.
Somebody who you've known since we've known each other.
And for me, it was definitely pre-boobs.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Pre-boyfriends.
Yeah.
Pre-knowing what I always knew I was going to be a dancer at some point. But pre-knowing who we are as adults. And here we are as adults still friends.
Yeah.
I feel like we Asian real nice.
I think so. I
feel like we Asian real nice. I actually thought of you last night when I was by Uncle Wendell. And I was having a conversation with a 26-year-old. And he tried to tell me that because I wear sunblock, I'm not respecting the sun.
Respecting the sun. The sun respecting me?
But there was a part of the conversation, I was like, why am I even trying to explain to him the fact that I don't need to put it on my arms if my arms are covered and all of these other things. But part of me, when I was having a conversation, I went, if Ayanna was here, she would have actually just given my answer. It makes him feel heard and listened to and also shut him down in one go.
Because I'm also interested in, what do you mean? I would like to know where he coming from. You're not respecting the sun because you do.
And that's what I probably should have asked. I should have said, what does respecting the sun look like?
Talk me through it. I
was just thought, what shit you saying, brother? This is the perfect kind of example of the friends that we are.
Right.
But also the distinctions that we have. And we do very different things. We think very differently. We respond to things very differently. But we have a beautiful friendship that I absolutely love and treasure and honor and all of the things. And I can't get too mushy. But we are here to talk about what you do.
Strong up.
You're right. We're here to talk about what you do. And side note for listeners, yes, you will now hear my very strong Trini accent because Ayanna's a Trini. And that's what happens when you live in multiple countries and you are part of multiple cultures. So Ayanna, I'm going to take in some rum as we do. Ayanna is, the maturity she's drinking here is neat. But I still going to rock with my ginger ale because I actually just like the fizz.
You know what it is? I don't know. I feel like as somebody who is not a very big drinker and who didn't know what certain things were supposed to be in terms of alcohol, the whole idea of rum and coke or rum and anything. My father smoked. My father drank rum, and to me, in my head, he was a. Oh God, I don't want to make him sound like. My father was a drinking, smoking, card playing man.
He was a Trinidadian man.
Yeah, I don't think I ever see my father chase rum with anything. Rum just seemed like one of those drinks that you just drink because it tastes like how it's supposed to taste.
This is a proper non-chasing rum, so at least if nothing else,
it's a nice rum.
This Appleton is good without having a chaser. But I think I really just like the fizz.
I like how this glass.
You like my glass?
Is doing this
it's
tilty
cute,
thing.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like the glass too. It's one of my little features now.
A little rocky glass.
Along with showing off my sneakers when I can. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of my friend in recent years. She's become a little bit of a sneakerhead as well. And so she is rocking some Patters Air Max. Honestly, growing up, I don't think I would have ever imagined Ayanna wearing on-trend pair of shoes.
Never.
Which is probably what makes her as good as she is at what she does, which we will now get into.
Because I'm never on trend.
I think that's a big deal.
I'm kind of analog.
You are analog, which connects with your career as a writer, as a published author. I am that friend who bought every copy, every new cover
Every
because this comes
edition.
in multiple covers. They're
Yeah.
gorgeous. They're beautiful. I still need to get the soft cover. That's what I forgot to get.
I just forget.
And writing it too.
Yeah.
All right. So
I'll sort you out.
Thanks. My friend Ayanna Lloyd Banwo has written this beautiful book, When We Were Birds. I will let her explain to you the book because she will do it. It's justice. But for me, I cried when I read it for multiple reasons because I know the person. I'm getting a bit emotional. And it's just a really phenomenal book. And also it represents our island really well. It's written, side note, how pretty is that?
Yeah.
But it's also written in our Trinidad dialect. Did I say it right? Yeah. Or Creole, patois.
Yeah, Creole or vernacular.
Yeah.
Or I would like to say our nation language.
Yeah.
I like the term nation language.
Our nation language. It's written in our nation language and it's a love story. But Ayanna, tell me about your book.
Okay, so...
You're on my podcast. Sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
Tell you about the book as the PR spiel.
Yes, give us the PR spiel first.
When We Were Birds is a love story and a ghost story. It's set in an imagined version of Trinidad, an imagined version of Port of Spain, which I've called Port Angeles. We have two characters who are at a crossroads in their lives. Darwin was raised Rastafari and as a result has had, unlike Orthodox, has had no contact with death, and he hasn't been to a funeral, and he ends up having to work in a cemetery as a gravedigger because it's the only work he could find. And there he meets Yejide, who is a kind of a mystery to the place as well because she lives hidden away in the mountains surrounding the city, and she is the latest person in her lineage to inherit a family power that's passed only through women in her family to usher the dead into the afterlife. And Darwin and Yejide meet in the city's oldest cemetery, Port Angeles' oldest cemetery, called Fidelis, on the eve of Yejide burying her mother. And so we have these two people who are on the brink of making certain big decisions about who they are, on the brink of feeling, two people who find hope in situations that they feel quite hopeless or quite helpless, in a country that feels hopeless and helpless at the same time. And yeah, lots of hijinks and romance and spooky shit ensues. And
it's so good, yo. I've now read it twice. I took a while to read it at first because there was a part of me that I don't want to start it. And also there's a little fear. What if I don't
suppose
like it?
I hate it, yeah.
Oh, then I'm telling my friend.
Oh, no.
I don't like it. But it was so phenomenal and so beautiful. And everyone who reads it says the same. So obviously we're waiting for the next book, which we will get to talking about how you do those things. But Yans, Trinidadian woman, you talked about the idea of phenoms and that as a writer that doesn't sit well with you.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
I think it's just that by the time you or I hear about a singer, you hear their debut album or you hear their first release on the radio or anything, and because they get up yesterday and sing the tune and end up on the radio, you're really talking about years and years of work, of quiet, of nobody believing or nobody knowing or them not even knowing.
Yeah.
And so there's a whole almost iceberg kind of subterranean process that happens with any work, but I think particularly creative work, that the industry likes, any industry likes the idea of new and brilliant, and this person who's just especially when they're young. Oh, they're so young and they're so brilliant, and it's not true. It's true for the papers and true for the whatever because they like that story. But most of these things it's years and years of work, of grinding, and even when there is some kind of commercial wraparound that rewards this work, even that part of it takes a couple of years of packaging this person who's just a person into a brand or into a talent that the public then gets to see. And those two things might be the same person.
Yeah.
But it takes a while. And I think particularly as a Trinidadian writer, in this moment of Trinidadian Caribbean writers who, I'm in good company, I'm in good new company right now, there is this kind of thing of, and again it happens to say, oh my gosh, there's a lot happening there. There's a lot of us that's doing so well there. And I'm like, I don't know where you was, but
That's been happening.
these things come in waves, right?
Yeah.
You can't take it too personal. You can't gas yourself too much, but you can't not gas yourself.
I will gas you. You know I will gas you
Yeah,
hard.
well, you see, that's the role.
We have always had some really great writers.
Always.
Problematic ones like V.S. Naipaul, but still a great author.
Still.
Sam Salvon. Who else? Yeah.
The funny thing is, I was actually listening to, on my way here, I was listening to a Sam Salvon novel. So funny you said that. The Housing Lark, which is one that I think I probably read so long ago that I couldn't remember, or maybe we had read an excerpt of it in school. But I realized when I started listening to it, I was like, I don't think I ever read this book. And it's brilliant. It's one of those novels that kind of reflects that West Indian migration to Britain in the 50s and the 60s. And it's basically a bunch of, it's very male-centered, as of course the writing at that time was. It feels so timely. A bunch of men who are renting little poke rooms, dealing with unscrupulous landlords. They're trying to find the £2 for a week for rent. And they just,
no Irish, no blacks, no dogs.
Exactly. And they all pick up and they say, hey, fellas, why we don't buy a house? And it's almost like a joke. If all of us put up, instead of paying rent, all we had to do is don't smoke, don't drink, we ain't running down no woman, we ain't whatever, we go buy a house. Or you can imagine a bunch of 20-something-year-olds in London in the early 60s.
Oh my days.
Say they ain't going to do all that, they're going to buy a house. So, you know.
Revolutionary.
But, yeah, and also impossible, and also it's humorous, like a lot of Salvan books are. Especially when you think about the fact that this book would have been written around the time when the Federation is starting to collapse. It's a bunch of West Indian people saying, let we come together and build something as ours. And then, of course, one by one, fall away,
Things
fall
happen.
away, fall away. So I ain't know whether they get the house and the bus back home. I'll find out whether they eventually.
So you said you were listening to an audiobook, but you are an author. Also, like When We Were Birds has been turned into an audiobook, and you use Trinidadian talent, as you would, but also so beautiful for our accents to be globalized as well. Also, one of the top 10 sexiest accents in the world, apparently, according to one of them random polls. So we could take that and we will live in that. Are you an audiobook person or a reader book person? Because growing up, you were always, but audiobooks didn't exist.
Yeah.
You were definitely a reader book person.
Yeah, so I was late, I'm late to everything, Zara. I was late to online banking. I was late.
Back to the not engaging in trends.
Yeah, I was just always behind and suspicious. So I was late to the audiobook thing, and I started listening to audiobooks because at first it was my way of testing a book to see whether I would buy it or not, whether I'd like it or not.
That makes sense.
And then it was books that I felt I wanted to listen to, but I didn't know if I wanted to buy. And then I started really liking just the format of audiobooks around the time when podcasts became a thing. I spent a lot of time on trains. I spent a lot of time flying. Also, old lady things. I get motion sick, so I can't read in the train or I can't read on the bus.
That's the most annoying thing about myself. Yeah. I hate that I can't read in trains and buses and
taxis. So it really
solved
solved a lot of those problems. It solved me being able to read while I'm in transit. It solved the fact that I like to clean and listen to books. I like to.
I guess you get through a lot more books as well because you could do it with other things.
But there's some things I have to physically read. Even if I listen to the audiobook, I'll want to physically get the book and read it that way.
See, I feel like I don't grasp it when I'm listening to an audiobook.
Right.
Even though I listen to a lot of podcasts, there's something about audiobooks that I feel like I do hear it. Does that make sense?
Because I think that's how we listen to music a lot of the time. We listen to music as an accompaniment to whatever else we're doing. Yeah. So listening to an audiobook, sometimes I'd find myself doing that too, where I realize, my brain has glossed over the last 2 minutes because I've zoned out and then I have to go back. Yeah. But the other thing that I found that has given me an appreciation for audiobooks as an art form itself is that listening to Caribbean books and audiobooks was an exercise in rage and frustration because the accents were never right.
Aha.
The accents were
why you use proper Trinidadians.
Right. The character Trini, the person Jamaican. The character from... Nobody even know it have a place named St. Vincent in terms of accent as far as... You know what I mean? So that was very frustrating. And then because there is a huge Caribbean diaspora population in Britain, it means you also have a lot of people who are Caribbean, but they didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
So what you're getting is a kind of approximation of what an accent that they remember sounds. And fair play, no problem with that. But it just like not right.
Yeah.
It's
And
not.
it will never be
It
right.
doesn't feel. Yeah.
It just
so,
will never be right. But even like you and I sitting here, we have slightly different accents
Yeah.
for all
Yeah.
that reasons. So talking about audiobooks and back to the fact that you said that you are an analog person. I know your childhood, but the people in them don't know your
Right.
childhood. But I know for a fact as well that your childhood informs so
Yeah.
much of who you are, what you are, and we jumped ahead because that's the problem with being very comfortable with who you're
It's just
interviewing.
chat.
Exactly. But let's backtrack a bit and take me back to Ayanna in the earlys. Where does writing come into Ayanna, young Ayanna?
Yeah, late well, not late. I should say that I grew up with stories before I grew up with books. That's the first thing.
Yeah, because your family is a storytelling
Yeah,
family.
yeah. My grandmother is a storyteller. And it sounds so cliche, like every Caribbean person have a storytelling granny.
I didn't.
But it's almost like a kind of trope of you have a mango tree, your roof have galvanized, and your grandmother tells stories.
And,
And your father does drink rum.
Not a bad life, though.
It is, you know. But I actually did have one of those grannies who told stories but who was also a working woman who loved to travel and loved her wigs and loved her shoes and loved her bags, and then would transform into this trope of the storytelling. I mean, all these cousins,
Yeah.
they're all together, 2 TV stations. What else you gonna do? And yeah, she told a lot of stories. She told some of them were from her imagination, but a lot of it was really just talking about her childhood, about what she remembered about her mother's, childhood. Her mother died when my grandmother lost her mother when she was 7. So she didn't remember too much about her. But who she remembered was her grandmother. So it meant that from growing up, there's this idea of lineage and storytelling as a means to know yourself and know your people. And that was a real strong current that I think ran through my life. My grandmother was almost mythologizing herself, her mother, her grandmother, her father. I have stories about these people who I never met them.
Yeah.
I don't have pictures of Gamma. Gamma don't have no picture.
Yeah.
But I have vivid senses of who these people, at least that version of them in her stories. And then also because my family was always into music, it meant that my mother's sister taught Big up Lauren. Taught piano, taught voice. We were in the choir. So it means you have 2 storytelling traditions coming up. There's the oral storytelling in that kind of formal way. And then there's music. There's calypso. There's folk songs. You grow up, you sing in the choir. I mean, I can't sing, but
You was the same way?
thing about choir is that it's one voice, not many voices.
Exactly.
So that was nice. So yeah, I think there are a lot of these kind of traditions of story and story that is linked, that is drawn specifically from Trinidadian and Caribbean life. My grandfather, my mother's father, and my father's father, I think my mother's father more, was a big reader. So then the books started coming when he would buy us books.
Right. So your grandfather, right?
Yes.
So Yolan's husband. Grandmother is Yolan by the way.
Yes, my grandmother's Yolan. So I was called her grandmother because that's how to say what she is.
And also, like, she was a grandmother
Yeah.
in that sense.
Although,
like,
listen,
also the grand part. What I remember of
Yes.
Yolan, there was the
more
grand
the grand,
part. Yes.
the persona,
Yes.
the way that she kind
Yes.
of moved in
And
the
her
world.
voice, as you just said, the way her voice as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Although the whole idea of when I went to primary school, and of course Lorraine was Lorraine, Yolan was Yolan, Albert was Albert.
Yeah.
And teachers were like, "Why are you so disrespectful? How you could call you? Well, that is their name. That's what they told us to call them. Because Yolan, as far as she was concerned,
Was not a
grandmothers are
grandmother.
old, and she's
Yes,
not that.
she's Yolan.
Exactly. But so yeah,
Albert
that's kind
books.
of Albert was a big bookman. He was a big politics man. He was a big cricket fan. I think my childhood was a lot of stories, a lot of cousins, a lot of play outside, a lot of sounds, the crackle of that radio when he tune in to listen to cricket. And you know them old tests, it's test cricket. They
All
don't know
day cricket.
one day cricket. That was cricket that going
Weeks.
It felt like weeks.
Weeks.
This cricket game going
I
on.
never get that. I don't
Yeah.
understand that.
No, I think I appreciate a lot that he would take me to test cricket.
I used to like playing cricket in the road. That was me in cricket, but I never grasped the idea of test cricket other than when Lara did the 400 and we got a holiday.
Yes.
That's all I
That was-
cared
that
about.
was a good part
That
of
was the
cricket.
extent of my cricket engagement. Yeah, so he used to take you to test?
Yeah, he used to take me to test. Mommy would go with him. Of course, I go in wherever she goes.
Yeah. Also,
And
big up Auntie Gail.
big up Auntie Gail. Big up Gail. I think as a child, particularly growing up in the 80s, growing up in a particular time, you didn't have no say about where you went.
True.
So this whole thing, I don't want to go, was, how you mean you don't want to go? I ask you where you want to go.
It's true,
If we go in cricket, we go in cricket.
Yeah.
If we go in parade, Independence Day parade, you're in the parade. If they go into, my mommy and Yola used to go to these auctions.
Sales.
Estate sales, plant sale, always going up in some higgy mountain somewhere to go buy some houses. And you just go because
Your family remind me of the quintessential Trinidadian family.
right.
When I think about what that looks like, I think about your family.
Okay.
Auntie Gail, Lorraine, all the cousins,
Yeah.
everybody in Dorrington. If you're writing a book,
Yeah.
Trinidadian family, does your family, the storytellers, the music, inform your writing, or are you a writer who just could write, like, could
Yeah.
compartmentalize?
I don't know. Is only one book I write?
Okay, fair enough. It's only one
Yeah.
book you've written, but you've been
No, but it's
writing.
a good question. It's a good question, but I think it depends on the story. So, for instance, the book that I'm writing now doesn't feel like this one in some ways. So maybe it doesn't feel like that. If you want to talk about that grandmother storytelling, it's a little bit more. I suppose if When We Were Birds was concerned about the idea of spiritual inheritance, the new book is concerned with dollars and cents inheritance, the everyday of figuring out. Which is why I've been listening to a lot of books about
Right.
housing and precarity and how hard it is to hold on to anything resembling anything to pass on, anything physical. Whereas people who might have been able to buy a house, your parents might have been able to buy a house. We trying to figure out where this house coming from.
Right.
Where does buy a house coming from? So I think it has a maybe different elements or different vibe from the first one. But I don't think that so far anyway, I think I'm still mining my childhood, my family, my upbringing. My sense of the world is very much there. My sense of the world is very spirit-centered. It's very story-centered. It's very ancestrally rooted. And I don't know if I know how to approach writing anything that doesn't come from that place yet. Ask me 4 books down the road whether
Yes.
it's still the same
Yes,
or
we
not.
will have 4 books down the road for sure. I have poems in my scrapbook that you wrote when we were like 12.
And we will not be sharing them.
Oh, listen, no, we're
Nope.
not sharing them. There will be a point when I make a coffee table book
jeez.
with the early writings of Ayanna Lloyd
Good.
Banwo. Watch me.
Yeah.
And they're in your handwriting, which is also very distinct handwriting.
Oh.
And you've always had a way with words. I'm sitting here listening to you, and part of me is going, don't lull away and listen to your prose and your choice of words. In the earliest of this conversation, you talked about subterranean iceberg, talking about like writers and all that. Your wordage, for lack of a better word, has always been so profound and big. No, honestly, like sometimes we'd be
By
talking.
overcompensating because I'm 4'11".
No. You only 4'11"?
I'm 4'11",
Oh,
child.
you're short, boy. I thought you were at least a 5 foot.
I thought so too until I went by the doctor.
Oh, and he
Measured
tell you
that.
hard luck.
And then I put the area pick and I was like, I'm sorry, where the other bits for this height? Yeah, boy.
Oh gosh, that's all right. But it's never in a uncomfortable way. It's never she feels she's smart way. From my perspective, it's always in a wow. You make me want to be smarter. And I guess where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking about right now is how do you
use the words. How do you write? How do you put these things together? Does it just come innately? Is it something that you felt that you developed over time, considering
Right.
you've been writing poems and stuff?
Okay, you make an answer that is just because I don't know if I know the answer to that question, but just my process, I suppose, is um sometimes it might just be a scene, a particular thing that a character is doing in a moment, and I start writing that, and I have no idea what the story is or where it's going or why. There's just something particularly interesting about this person is doing this, or it might be physical description that starts that there's a place that I'm particularly drawn to, or oh, okay, and then that kind of develops from there. But it's messy. None of those things sound like anything you want to read at first. I put one foot in front of the other. You put one foot in front of the other,
And you start
and
really
you just
messy.
start walking. And at some point, actually, that's a good way of thinking about it. Like thinking like you're just going for a walk, or maybe you thought you're going to the shop. You're going to the shop. You're going from here to there. By the time you reach the shop, you find something else you didn't plan on buying. You find a nice juice or something. You say, hey, let me take a walk, and then the sun come out, so your day start to feel nice. So then you walk it, and suddenly, one foot in front of the other, you realize, I'm having a kind of nice day.
Yeah.
This feel nice. I didn't plan to go out for a walk, but the walk feeling nice, sun out, whatever. And that's how the writing goes for me. I don't think there's the first stages of it. I don't think I'm too precious about word selection or like a big idea and this is the grand thing that I'm going to. Nah, it's just I'll mainly be taking a walk. And then afterwards, when you reach back home and then you think, okay. So now there's all of this on the page. Then it's the carving.
Then you craft.
Then it's the word choice. It's the how does that sentence feel? Not necessarily look, but how it sounds if I read it aloud, how it looking on the page, how it feels when I say it. Is that right? No, not. But don't cut it. Put it to the side, come back to it. And then that's on good days. On bad days, it's a lot of faffing around.
Making tea.
Doing laundry when I don't really have to do laundry. Staring at the screen and nothing happening.
Bad TV comes in.
Yeah, reality TV.
I find it so funny that
yeah.
like you watch more reality TV than I do.
Love trash TV. Love it.
I love some good trash TV, but
Yeah.
for example, I've never watched Love Island. You were the first person who was like, "Do you watch Love Island?" I was like, I did not think you would be watching Love Island.
So here's the thing about Love Island, right? So again, I wasn't just born in Trinidad. I didn't just grow up in Trinidad. I lived in Trinidad till I was 37. So I came here as a proper adult. So it meant...
Shit, you were 37?
Yeah, I was 37 when I did my master's in creative writing. And that wasn't that long ago, so we're not that old. But
no, we're not that old.
So it means that the idea of Britain was an almost colonial idea of Britain in my head. It was the Britain of Sam Selvon and Linton Kwesi Johnson. That was what I thought of. Between that and Enid Blyton, that was Britain. Then you moved
that
here.
That is two very distinct.
Yeah. That was the two. And then Princess Diana. Maybe throw her there. She was England
impactful.
Somehow in my head. Then when you moved here and then a few other people started moving, that would have been what, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Then there was a kind of modern Britain that I started hearing about. But even so, it was very told by Black Caribbean people who I knew that it was Brixton, it was London, it wasn't. So then it means first Love Island was like an education in so this is the place, this is the real place. All what I was seeing before was just, I think it felt like an education of, I don't have a whole thesis about
I
Love
think you
Island.
should. I think that it is thesis worthy,
especially watching it from like the early seasons.
Yeah, you were in season 1.
Yeah, very, first of all, not London centric. The class dynamics, the obsession with hair color as a personality driver. It was just strange. I was like, what is this? And yeah, it was interesting for me to see these various Englands that were existed in this place that told the world that it was a grand imperial power.
And then
It was Love Island. I enjoyed it.
I mean, kind of true though, right? Like the Grand England is really not.
You know,
but
Zara, it's just a place.
Not, yeah.
It's just a place that got lucky.
It's not the mother country anymore.
It's just a place that
Yeah.
got lucky that it don't know what to do in either.
Yeah.
It trying to figure it out same way like everybody else trying to figure it out. So there was something interesting to me, educational, interesting, and also very good when you want to procrastinate and don't want to write the book that you're supposed to be writing.
So when you are procrastinating and not writing the book that you're supposed to write, how do you get out of that? Because there are deadlines.
Yeah,
there are
yeah,
people
yeah.
who've paid you for this writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you
How do I
get
get
back
out of
onto that?
procrastination?
Yeah, into writing.
I actually get very depressed when I'm not working. I don't think I've ever said that out loud. There's at some
okay.
point when I start to feel almost like a bodily lethargy. A kind of I get grumpy. I snap. I don't talk. I get very, because I have someone who lives with me, my husband and I live together. At some point he says, "Look, woman, if you don't go back to work, I can't deal with this no more. You need to
That's
go and do
Addy.
something because you're getting a bit much. You're working." No. Yeah,
He's
because
so good for you.
I think so.
And I've seen you through all the boyfriends.
I think so. Yeah.
He's really good for
Yeah,
you.
he just gets it.
I dig the husband.
Yeah, I dig him too, thankfully.
Yeah, he's good people's.
But yeah, I think there's a point of it just gets too much. It's because you're avoiding doing a thing that really wants to be done. And after a while, it takes a toll on how my body feels, how my emotions feel, how I communicate, how I whatever. And I just get very sad. And I don't always know that's what's happening. Why am I in such a wretched mood? I'm too idle. I'm sure there's a psychotherapist in there somewhere that also explains why I find it hard to relax.
Yeah.
I find it very difficult to just not do.
I find it very easy. I would say I think I used to be that person.
Yeah.
And then something, I don't know what switched, I don't know how it switched, but then I turned into the person who's, I could do nothing. So much so that I'm possibly going, not even possibly the other day when I was home and I was talking to KB, I was like, why didn't you teach me how to be a gold digger? Like the nothingness that could come with being a gold digger. Yes, I will get my nails done, I will get my hair done, I will go to the gym and I'll have the chef cook me proper meal. But the rest of the nothingness that comes with that, I was like, I feel like I could really get into that
life. Except here's the thing. It's also hard work.
It depends though.
I think being a constant object of someone's desire is labor. That's what it feels to me. You know,
I could see that, but also I would
when
love
it's
to
in
be
a
doted on and
manufactured
be.
way. Yeah.
I feel like if I was gonna be a gold digger, I will make him really feel he's in love with me, and not be.
Yeah.
And the gold digging part will probably be just my strategy.
So then you're not really a gold digger. You're just a partner who's loved by a wealthy person.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Maybe that's really just
Maybe
what
I
you
just
wanna
need to
be.
find a rich husband and be like, handle it.
Oh.
And then it will let me spend all my time doing things like podcasting.
Yeah, which is labor too. Here's one thing for me. You cannot get rid of, not you can't get rid of. We live under capitalism. Labor is perpetual, unceasing, and just without end because the machine demands it. I guess maybe you decide what kind of labor you feel happy to do until we all figure out a way to break the wheel of this machine and unlearn the hamster wheel we're running on and engage in some radical rest. Until we get to that point, I think that's maybe why I feel that.
If
But
you're
even
not
you
working.
saying, I wish I had learned to do that, that's still labor. It's still work.
It is.
I don't think we've quite conceptualized how we could just rest and not. Anyway, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, and
but
I was just thinking maybe that's where AI is trying to take us at some point. If we handle it right and
don't
we
know.
manage it, maybe it will take us to the point where we understand what radical rest is.
I don't know.
But-
That's a whole different. I don't know enough about that to weigh in on the AI.
And that's a whole nother
I'm
space.
too
right?
analog to have my
Analog
thoughts
is
together.
not a bad thing. Talking about the unending perpetual labor
Yeah.
and being on this capitalist constant hamster wheel. as a writer that
Yeah.
requires a lot of internal and external inputs and being able to craft a space when someone is reading, and you do it so well. You paint pictures so well for people. How do you balance that and stay sane and not have me come to visit you in the insanatorium? Is that a word? Is that the word?
Sanatorium.
I was gonna call
Yeah,
it the
yeah, yeah.
madhouse, but I know we can't call it the madhouse. 'Cause
Sanatorium.
that's Trinidad. Sanatorium, not
Yeah. I
insanatorium.
don't even know if sanatorium is a modern word.
I don't think it is.
But anyway, we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I happen to like what I like what I do. It helps that I was not very good at anything else, to be honest. That might sound weird. No, it's true.
I went to school with you. You were very good at lots of things.
No, I was because I was
Except
I
maths with
studied the
Mr. Cowie.
humanities. When I say I wasn't good at anything else, I wasn't good at anything else. The other things that are seen as money generators. I wasn't into math. I wasn't into science. I don't think I understand money enough to be good at business. I don't understand or respect it enough as a thing to be good at business. And so I happen to always be a writer. I was always into humanities. I was always into history. So it meant that, and I couldn't think of myself being a lawyer, which was the other thing that they
You'd
said
be
you were
such a
supposed
good
to be.
lawyer.
I guess, but I couldn't.
For multiple reasons, but your command of the English language
Right.
would make you a great lawyer.
I guess.
And
I
your
just
bishop skills, so there's that.
I don't know, too much. You know me and the feds and the Carelli.
Babylon.
Too much lawyer just seemed like too much police and too much. Sorry.
But I also
just
could
wasn't-
see,
It could happen. It could have happened, but
and I could also see you being the 4'11" powerhouse lawyer who will tell police, who the police would listen to. In the same way that Auntie Gail
Yeah.
wielded that silent power over her students
I
and anyone
guess.
else who came in contact with Auntie
Yeah.
Gail, there was this automatic respect
yeah.
and adoration and appreciation, but with a hint of fear,
Yeah. Oh, more than a hint.
you know?
A
dollop. A dollop of fear,
Yeah.
but not enough that made you not want to engage with
Yeah.
her. I mean, you look like Auntie Gail so much more and more every day. I feel like that's your gift. That kind of silent power and control.
Right. Maybe.
Talking about your gift, because you're my friend and I want to possibly embarrass you a little bit.
Oh, Lord.
But you have this book and it has won awards and you went on a whole tour thing and people want to talk to you and all these
Yeah.
exciting things. I've read somewhere, and it's not in here at the moment, but where people likened you to Toni Morrison.
Yeah, it's not wild.
People say a haunting, a novel of exquisite detail that opens up the liminal space between folklore and the world we inhabit. Banwo's spirited, fightly wrought prose draws you in and doesn't let go. When We Were Birds marks a distinctive, bold, and truthful new voice in literature. Long may she fly. Let me look in the back here. Exceptional. The originality of its premise, the power and beauty of its prose, the depth of its explorations of what it means to be and to be loved. To love and be loved, sorry. Ayanna Lloyd Banwo is one of those rare voices you come across in a long while. Strong, confident, and necessary. She reminds us what we should expect from great writing.
Who write that?
It's in the back of your book, how you don't know?
Sorry, no, sometimes you know your head.
From Elon Habila.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Habila.
it's a knockout. And Ayanna Lloyd Banwo is a star. I want to read everything she writes. I, as your friend, will read everything that you write. And I also know all of these things. How you handling it? To hear these things, to receive this love. How we going?
Appreciative, and also they have some things you have to look at out to the corner of your eye. You can't look at it too straight on because then you'll take it on too much. Huh? You have to, it's aware of it, know it for what it is, be thankful. The thing about doing any kind of creative work, I think the community of other people in your industry, other people in your art form, other writers, other dancers, other musicians, other whatever, is really a kind of engine that keeps you going when you feel like, oh God, this is crap. It's not good enough. It's not whatever enough. So having other people say, because it's an awful thing in a way to, you sit down by yourself a lot at odd hours making something up. That's basically what you're doing. You're making something up.
I mean, I
And
feel like
then,
most careers is that.
yeah, and then you say, here, look at this thing that I built. And somebody could say, yeah, don't want that thing. That thing is not good. I have no interest in that thing. So having people say, this is a good thing, I want this thing is great. But you have to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to do it again. You have to do it again. And so for me anyway, not looking at that too much means that every time I go to the page, it's in some ways the confidence to know that I did it before, but also the real awareness that it's like I haven't done it before. It's a different book, a different project. I'm a different person. Not different person. It's you a few years
Yeah,
later.
change inevitable.
Yeah, you know, by the time, so for instance, so this book came out in 2022. I finished actually writing this book and it sold in 2020 in the pandemic. So you're always
Yeah.
like 2 years behind. So the book comes out into the world and the next book done knock it in the back of your head while you're talking about this one, which helps to not be too gassed, not be too,
But back to my
but gassed
job.
enough.
Yeah.
You need to be
I
gassed
I
enough.
hope you're gassed enough because
Yeah.
you should be with writing this book, Spiritual Inheritance, and the new book you said was more dollar and cents inheritance. Clearly, there's a little theme going on. Where does that come from?
The truth.
Yes, the truth.
The truth. No, I don't know. I don't know what the truth.
You're talking to me.
Yeah, okay. At some point, my mother died in 2013. My father died in 2014. My grandmother died in 2015. In 2016, I had a huge medical scare where it really was me and Port of Spain General
It
got
was
tight.
scary.
2016? 2016.
Yeah.
And then I shut my life down in a lot of ways to be like, pause, what now? And I started writing this book. And then by 2017, I got into this MA program, and then the rest
What
sort of
MA
happened.
program?
I went to the University of East Anglia, Masters in Creative Writing, got a scholarship, did some crowdfunding, did some Obia.
And it
To
worked?
make, took some risks, then continued on to my PhD, just finished that. So this idea of inheritance, I think that I've been exploring and mining between this book, the second book, to some extent the third, which is again, the books is just keep saying, hurry up and finish because I have something else here for you. It's just exploring that idea of what have you been given? What have you been given to hold, to walk through the world with, and what you're going to do with that? And that can span so many different ways. Are these spiritual gifts? Are these creative gifts? Are these curses? Are these burdens that you're really, and not everything you had to hold. Some things you had to put down. Some things you have
Yeah.
to say, you know what? This, I'm not carrying forward this anymore. It is finished. I'm done. So I guess death and illness, and especially when they come unexpected and they come in threes, causes a lot of reevaluation. And it does. And the thing is, I tried to write a grief book, and it just couldn't. This is not the first book I tried to write.
Okay.
It couldn't work. It was too close. It was too much. It was too much me. And I had to come out of that and then get back to story. It's always story. It's not memoir. It's not biography. It's not autobiography. It's not old talk. It's a story. And I feel like once I'm always aware that, yes, you're given certain stories to tell, you're given certain things to say in the life that you're in, but my work is a storyteller. My work is narrative. So that has to be the first thing that I'm serving, not necessarily the idea. So yeah, how am I handling it? I listen to the new books that saying, hey, I have something here for you. Hurry up and finish, and not think of this. I have to always think of the thing that's calling,
Yeah.
and the thing that,
And the inheritance is a little bit of the
yeah,
cathartic
yeah.
action.
I don't know what I'm wary about catharsis because one, it's not therapy. It's not me. It's me, but it's not me. Catharsis might be the end result or the byproduct, but it's not something I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I think trying to do that was what made me write a
The
bad
first
book
book.
that just didn't quite happen.
But do you think that now you phrase it to me, everybody died?
Yeah?
Do you think that post everybody died, that's why you're intrigued by inheritance in particular?
Mm-hmm.
For example, you said book number 3 is already knocking about. Does that have a connection to inheritance?
It hasn't said so yet, but
Okay.
it's saying something.
How do you know when a book is knocking? What is it saying to you?
What is it? How do
Or
I
how
know?
does it say it?
How do I know? Sometimes it's might just be an idea that's, oh, that would be cool to write about that. Oh, that would be cool to write about that. But that doesn't usually stay. When something is, it's that it's insistent. It's a character, a name, an idea, a haunt that just does not stop freaking bothering you. So
Yeah.
far, anyway, they're also just things that I feel like, oh, that would be interesting to think about it. That would be interesting to research. But that mightn't necessarily be the story. I don't know where the story gonna be in that yet. So far, yeah, I would say that's what I'm working on now, and what I think I may work on next has the feeling of an insistent call. We're talking about dreams, we're talking about when my mother died, I didn't dream her for a long, long time. And then I had 3 dreams. I wouldn't tell you the other 2, but I'll tell you one. One was she came into the house where we lived, and she was like, called me, said, come, I have something to show you. And we had a tall, those long time antique, like what you call it, a
Cabinet.
cupboard, a wardrobe. And this was actually a wardrobe that was in my grandmother's house when she was small. One of them long time.
Wow.
Must be teak or some kind of hard wood. It was the 2 things, and then had some shelves. And she just was like, come on. She opened the shelves, and the shelves had a set of papers, like notebooks. The set of notebooks, a set of things. And this was before I even this wasn't there. And she said, everything right in here. Everything right in here. When you're ready for it. Yeah, and I knew these were 3 books. And I just, yeah. And I believe in them thing. I ain't joking. I ain't talking. It's not rum talking. True
Yes.
talk. And I think you have to balance, at least for me, I try to balance between this feeling of, oh, I've been given this message, and knowing that, again, it's just a story. It's just a story. If it's not a story that somebody want to read, if it's not something that makes somebody feel a way, then what it is, then it's not, you know what I mean?
When We Were Birds makes you feel a way in all the ways, beyond the imagery, but also the actual love story and all that. To pull it back a little bit, because we've known each other for so long, and we've seen each other through so many phases of life, like young love, semi-love, crazy love, current love. What do you see, or do you have an idea of what that next phase of your life is?
Whoa. Yes and no. Yes, in that I think it's important to call the things that you want to yourself. You have to call it, you have to speak it, but not everything is to talk. Sometimes you have to call things in your mind. You can't call it out because it have a something that's going there. Where sometimes you have to have a dream and you just have to hold it and know that it's there. Yes, but there was something that somebody who we both follow on Instagram said the other day. Candice Brathwaite.
Okay.
Brathwaite or Brathwaite.
I don't know. I try not to say her surname because she's very particular about how she says her
Okay.
surname, and I never remember.
Candice, stylish Candice. Whatever, however she has her last name. Candice, we love you and we're sorry if we butchered your last name.
Sorry.
To leave room for surprise in your life. To don't be so Like you have a plan, that you kind of don't leave room for something taking a complete left turn and your life surprising the hell out of you. Yeah, I like that idea. I like the idea of saying yes, because so much of the last few years for me has been executing a plan. It's been very much working one after the other. So I left Trinidad not really intending to leave Trinidad. I thought I was coming to do my MA and go back home.
Yeah.
I came to write this book and get an agent. That was the plan, right? Then it was, okay, if I haven't had an agent in a year, I need to do a PhD because that's going to buy me some more time. Which meant if I started in September, end of September, the scholarship deadline for my PhD program was in January. So it meant I had barely got started in my MA when I had to do a PhD proposal, secure that funding to know that I could start. So that was 2017 to 2018. 2018, 2019, starting to write this book as well as working on my thesis. 2020, sold this book and the next one. Then into 2022, publishing. It's just been a kind of a...
Constant.
Yeah, so it would be nice to see how in the midst of all my planning that there could be something completely...
That was your husband? He was unexpected. That was a bumble. And because I live in Brixton and he was checking me. So I take full credit for this marriage.
This is what I'm saying.
Like full credit.
That's what I'm
right?
saying.
But that's one of those beautiful surprises.
They're
Yeah.
like, oh, I thought I was having a hot girl summer.
Hey.
I didn't know.
Not, oh, I met my husband.
Yeah.
Summer.
So yeah, that was not part of the plan at all. So yeah, I guess, you're thinking about it like that. You always have to leave room for something that's unexpected, something that maybe has been there for you, but it just didn't tell you. You just don't know that it's coming. But it's been there and it's been coming. So yeah, that's the next phase of life. Work-wise, I definitely have things that I know that I want, that I can't talk. I don't talk out loud because I can't. And then this surprise of, I mean, the other thing that when I think about, okay, if I could figure out what just like my day-to-day could look like. And that is something that changes a lot. I live in Norwich, so I'm not in London.
She left me.
I'm not in London.
We didn't live in the same country for so long.
So many
We finally
years.
live in the same country. But she went far, Norwich. Fair enough, business to be done. Then she found love. Once again, just to remember,
Right,
because of me,
because
because
of
of
you.
where I
Take
live.
all credit.
Then she moved back to nearby. She was only a bus ride away.
Yep.
And you know what's so funny? A bus ride away and your husband
And we
constantly
still
was
had to like
perturbed
plan
by the fact that we did
time.
not see each other as much as we should.
Yes, we still had to
considering.
always schedule
Because
time.
we were also just used to living
Yeah.
across oceans.
Yeah.
But as I'm like, okay, right, I'm going to prove Ade wrong. We are going to see each other. I'm going to rock up in that house every week
Yep.
and be like, what are we doing? Nothing cool. That we do nothing together.
Right.
She goes back to Norwich.
And then we moved.
All that to say, you're back in Norwich.
Yes. And I think I like slow. I like knowing that if the bus doesn't come at the time that it says it's going to come, it's not really a crisis. It could come in another 10 minutes.
Or you could walk it because
Or
you're
I could
Norwich.
walk. Yeah, I could walk. I like that. And I'm not trying to romanticize outside London life or, oh my God, you need to leave London. Because no. Because they have things you just can't find. There are things that just aren't there. There's no... London is its own animal and its own beautiful, messy, very expensive, vibrant thing. But it's also not the world.
Yeah.
And I found that, and we mightn't stay. We mightn't be there forever. Again, leave room for surprise. But yeah, I like that I have a butcher down the road.
Who you know?
That, yeah,
Feel a little bit like
who
home.
kind of know us, that, you know,
Like the fact that you
and
know
say
your
they
butcher feel a little bit like
yeah,
Trini.
that they know
Yeah.
that my husband is a cook and that, you know, they say, oh, I saved something. We get in something and we hold some back for you because we know, we figure you ain't reached yet. How
You would
come?
like this. Oh, that's so nice.
That there's a greengrocer up the road. I have my...
You have
I
a
have
community and your neighbors.
I have my Saturdays where I have my Mrs. Dalloway Saturdays where I could get up and I go and buy some flowers and I buy the flowers myself.
Very good.
And then I get some spices and thing and you carry your little jars and they fill it
Yeah.
back for
Your zero wasting.
yeah.
Nice.
I like that. But I also like that it's also a place that has really nice restaurants, really nice pubs, really nice bars. I could still get a good gin and tonic. I could still
Important.
get good coffee shops, good bookshops. It's much more diverse than it was 5 years ago, the first time, 5, 6 years ago, first time I lived there. And this is not a Norwich ad, but I think that one of the things that is happening, and again, as we talk about housing and we talk about, is that a lot of people are just getting priced out of the place that they grew up and the place that they
Yeah.
want to live. And so it means that what we're finding is much more diverse communities or communities outside of London becoming more diverse. Not necessarily because they said, oh, London is terrible, let's leave. It's because they just couldn't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. We were able to, for our parents, grew up somewhere, buy a house or get a house and then have your children and it's there. For a lot of generations now, they can't afford to buy
That's not
houses
gonna
where they grew
happen.
up.
I know. That's
Mhm.
really scary. I keep on forgetting to ask this question, so I'm going to talk back. You talked about you had a plan, right? The last 6, 7 years was a plan. Before that, I'm assuming you didn't have a plan or you didn't know that there could be a plan.
I didn't know that there could be a plan.
Had you known there was a plan before,
Yeah.
would you have started this plan earlier? Or
Oh,
do you think
yeah.
you needed to have life experience?
Yes, but I still would have started earlier. If I had any clue when I was 17, 18, 19 doing A levels that there was a possibility that publishing, and maybe this would not have been possible then, because especially in Britain, we're in a golden age of Black British publishing
Yeah.
at the moment. Let's make that clear. But if I even had a clue that there was a possibility that I could write for a living, man, I'd be out like a shot. Not out of Trinidad necessarily, but I would have decided, yeah,
what I'm doing.
this is what I'm doing.
If you were 17-year-old Ayanna
Yeah.
and you were about to Google, how do I become a writer?
Yeah.
What would be the 10 do these steps
Yeah.
that you might put out there?
I would have probably not done geography for A level.
Would you have even
With
bothered
the
with A levels
stress,
or you would have just done lit?
I would have. I
Okay.
would have probably done lit history and maybe just done 2 A levels and
Maybe
GP and
politics.
finished.
It's politics.
No, we didn't have
We
that.
Didn't have politics in
And we didn't
Trinidad.
have soci yet either. Didn't have sociology yet when we were doing.
Interesting.
So geography was just the third thing that was humanities-ish.
I used to make you come out to geography.
Yeah, it made me break beach. I was a good child, you know.
Break beach for the people who are not Trinidadian is when you skip school. So I left home when I was 16. So we just did O levels and I left because I wanted to be a dancer and I knew that's what I was going to do. And that meant that I came home and luckily my mother's a flight attendant, so coming home, as my mother used to tell me, using a plane like a maxi taxi. Which is true. I used to come home like
Come
on
home all the
random
time.
weekends because I could. It was free, right? New York was only 4 hours away. And many times my sister Alicia and I would pull up to our old high school. Like normal, 11 o'clock in the morning, Ayanna is fully in class. And because we know the school, we would pull up, I would jump out and run by the classroom door or the window, not the door actually, by the
It was that big window.
yeah,
looking
those
out
old
onto-
sachet windows and like wave and then give it the sign and then we'd be on the beach. And I feel like you had such an education that way. You still pass.
I did. I think I live in eternal. I lived in eternal fear that one day, today was going to be the day that somebody who knew my mother or somebody who knew my father would see us driving around and be like, "Where's the time? You're not supposed to be in school."
I used to get that all the time. Like Karen wouldn't even be in the country and she'd be like, I heard you were so and so, so and so. So I don't know. Gail must have known and just probably decided she was with relations or she was clearly safe.
Maybe.
She must have just let it slide because I am sure somebody saw
Must
you and
have.
told Gail.
I think that is something that I would have just gone full 100. I think I would have believed in my writing more from jump. I would have believed that it was something that was possible that I could do. I would have not looked at a boy till I was about 27. That is for sure.
You were my friend who had the solid relationship from young. But he was a lovely boy.
Yeah, no, of course. I had one boyfriend throughout high school.
Yeah.
Nice boy. We're still good friends.
Committed relationship.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So you would have still take on
for
boys.
whatever a committed relationship was when you were a child. When, let's face it, we were children. We was,
Yeah, we were.
One of the things that I actually find really nice about thinking about love and thinking about, even writing a story that's, in many ways a love story, I think that there was also that part of me that felt like I'm a serious writer. I don't write about love. I write about that for what?
You love though.
But that's what I'm saying. There's this
Yeah.
idea that there
You
was
love-
a serious literary fiction writer. What was this thing about romance and whatever? So it was nice to let go of that a bit. And also, I think there are things about growing up without cell phones, growing up without. It meant there was a kind of a longing about teenage love that happens when somebody is not easily accessible to you.
You might be onto something there around the whole lack of access.
There was just lack
when
of,
you have a
there was lack of
boyfriend,
access for
you
me
couldn't call
anyway.
your house
Growing
after
up,
9 o'clock.
I didn't even have a house phone in my house for a long time.
For real?
Yeah, my phone was by Yolan's house.
Oh yes, Dorrington.
Yeah. One time, my father run up the phone bill and mommy said she ain't paying it. And they basically paid chicken with each other for 15 years.
You gonna pay this?
No,
phone
I ain't
bill.
paying the bill. Well, I ain't paying the bill. So nobody paid the bill. We just sat
But
there.
that's true. But then again, I saw you every day. I didn't need to call you.
I think those are nice things to also kind of write about. When you pare back the immediate access, there's a kind of a longing, there's a kind of a sweetness, there's a kind of a something that maybe I still think about that we all had as teenagers, that innocent sweetness
Yeah.
of teenage crushes, and which I think is
Liking
really
people from afar.
liking somebody from afar,
Yeah.
liking somebody who you never talked to because you were shy, or they went to a different school and you only saw them when it was a football match on the weekends, or you only
Intercall.
saw them. Yeah, there's a sweetness about that I think is really nice to explore
Yeah.
in fiction, that I think, not to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, but
Why you don't write a YP? That's what it's called them, right? Young people novel or teenage.
why young adults.
Yeah.
That
Maybe
could
be fun.
That's why I keep saying, I find it difficult to talk about myself as a writer in a definitive sense,
Yeah.
because lifelong.
True. But we didn't answer because, as expected, we got sidetracked. Your 10, if you could write the 10 steps for how to be a successful writer, or get an agent, or any of those things, that strategy, what would you
If
write?
it was then at 17 or like now?
If you're talking to a young Ayanna with the knowledge that you have now.
Okay, it would have to be with the knowledge I have now as well as the situation that exists now.
Yes.
Yeah, because I would say, and I think this probably applies still, read voraciously. I'm not somebody who would say read the classics, because whatever, read what you like, read whatever you find interesting, read whatever is there. Yes, read books that people say are good. Like, if you want to use some kind of metric, if they're like prize lists, if there's whatever, scan them, and then whatever appeals to you, especially if you could read like the blurbs or the back of the book to see what they're about. Read those. Don't necessarily just read and say, oh, this one, so this must be what the pinnacle of fiction.
Because it might not appeal to you. It might not do what you needed to do.
And it mightn't be good.
Oh, Lord.
Sorry. That's the quiet part. It mightn't be good for you.
Yes.
Right? So, yeah, read everything. Because I don't think there's any way of getting around being a writer if you're not reading books. Just like you can't do anything creative. You can't be a musician if you ain't listening to music. You just can't. There's no way around it. So you have to feed your brain, feed your pen with good food. Write. The common thing would be to say write every day, but I don't think that's always possible. But write a lot. Write when you feel like it, right? Maybe sometimes when you don't feel like it. And make that a kind of sacred time. A kind of a... This is important. It's important. It's important to you. And it doesn't matter if no one else thinks it's important. Or it doesn't matter if you can't see it's important. So make that time and put that time in. Find a community. Find a tribe. Find other people who into writing, other people who like writing.
And is that easier now with social media? Because you
It's
could be in a community in a whole different
Yes,
location and
easier
geography.
now. There are workshops, there are online things. I would say get a job.
As in the one that just pays the bills.
Get a job that pays the bills.
Yep.
Don't matter what that job is.
You luckily always had a job that required some kind of writing.
because that's what I could do.
Like you've done copywriter.
Yeah.
You were in the office of the PM doing comms at one point.
Yeah.
What else? What other?
As a
you
teacher
were
for a
teacher.
long time.
I
I
remember
worked
you
in
were a teacher.
advertising. So I think it balanced, but it doesn't have to be those jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It could be, what I mean is, you have to have, this Virginia Woolf quote, a woman that has to have money in a room of her own in order to write fiction. And it's true. You have to have some kind of independence. You have to have something to make sure that your needs are met on a day-to-day basis. Something that gives you a footing in the world and a place you can carve out that you could do this work, whatever this work is.
I would never know Virginia Woolf quote if you weren't my friend. Far less one that talks about a woman being self-sustaining.
Yeah, you have to be. It's, as I said, capitalist machine.
So we reached 3. So read voraciously.
Yeah.
Write as often as you can, and even when you don't want to, find your community.
Find a community, get a job.
Get a job to reach 4.
Then you find your next community.
What is your next community?
Your next community is people who actually know what they're doing and know what they're talking about.
Okay.
As the
so
next
like that
community.
agents,
No, even before that,
Who's
that
that?
might be like a proper workshop, whether it is a residency, whether it's things that you
Right.
apply for.
So like how you did, I'm going to do this MFA.
Yeah.
That's well known for creative writing.
Even before I did an MFA, I always had workshops. I always had
Focus.
book. I went to scour the world for where are the places that writers does be. Literary
Lit Fest.
festivals, readings, because that's where you're going to find maybe a little bit of a kind of an apprenticeship where you're writing alongside or in a community of people who are not just interested, but who are actually good or actually know and can help you. Because interest will take you so far, natural facility with words, but then at some point you don't know how to do the thing. So then you need instruction.
You
of
find
some
your
kind of
professional
instruction.
community.
Yeah. For me, I don't know if this would work, if this would be unnecessary, but you have to share your work. You have to enter things. You had to jump out and submit for competitions, submit for publication, and each no, just eat it and keep going. You have to share. Whatever it is, you have to put it out there.
Yeah.
And then that's a different kind of feedback. That feedback is now you have 3 layers of feedback. You have kind, supportive, peer feedback. You have instruction feedback. Then you have public feedback. And you have that that other feedback is editors who say yes, who say no.
And all of these at some point will also possibly put you in the space of an agent.
Maybe, yeah, an agent.
It
an
may not be
editor.
the thing, but there's also there's always a possibility, right?
This part gets murky for me because that was my path. In that the established thing is then you pitch. So you read a book and you like the book, right? Nice trick that somebody told me, and I was like, oh, that's a good one. I wish I'd known that. If you have books that you've read that you've liked, you'll know who the publisher is. That's one thing. Go to the acknowledgements page. Most of the times they mention their agents. They thank their agents.
That's so true.
They thank their agent, their publicist, their publishers. Because then all that might tell you is it's possible that if I like this book, or I maybe think I write like this, or we have similar subject matter, then that agent or that publisher might be interested in what I'm writing. So then you narrow like a dream list. That's a good hack.
Yeah, that's a good
Yes. The other thing that sometimes that they do that's really good, and this might be another, if they've got funding from somewhere to do research time to write the book, write down who's the funding coming from. If it might be a residency, might be a whatever else, And they just put in those in your little folder of when I'm ready, I know that possibly this is something I could think about. So, I don't know which one we on, but
I think we're on 6 or 7. So you get to that point. How do you do the agent bit?
Usually how it happens, as far as I know, is that you find somebody who you want to pitch to, and then you write.
Send in a blurb or something?
Yeah. Most of the times you've written the book.
Oh.
Or you've written
At least a good
3
chunk.
to 6 chapters or something that the person could see
Right.
where this is going.
That makes sense.
You submit to agents first, and you
Right.
say, this is what I'm writing, this is who I am, this is who I think this work is in community with or in conversation with, or this might be for fans of these writers or people who've written these books, or this is where I think the work sits. I've seen that you also represent
Which is where
which is
scraping
where that
the
thing-
acknowledgements come from.
And I'd love to send you And that's if the person is open to pictures. Usually if you go on their website, they'll say not accepting pictures at this time, I'm accepting pictures at this time. Really interested in
XYZ.
children's books right now that deal with these themes. Sometimes they're really
Well, that's
specific,
helpful.
really helpful. Not everybody does it, but some people do it. And then you send it and wait for the no's to roll in.
And
Or
then,
the
the
yeses.
yes will come in.
Or the one, because you only need one. You only need one yes.
And then I guess once you hit that agent part, you follow their lead. But as someone who's now gone through it, you sold 2 books out the bat. Is there anything that you wish that you knew beforehand or would do differently?
Yeah, but that's more business stuff, not necessarily the writing stuff.
But what is the business stuff? Because a writer may not be paying attention to the business bit.
Yeah, there's some things that I didn't know. I didn't think about this until really recently, and I don't even know if it's a definite. But so when you sell a book, you sell rights. So rights to publish in particular territories. It might be the U.S. and Canada as one territory. Some people sell Canada separate from the US, from North America. There's Britain, there's the UK and Commonwealth is one territory. Some people sell worldwide rights. So really that depends, and that's where the agent part comes in. But there are certain things that I just didn't think about.
Like
that I think I would think about maybe in the future. So having gone to Ake Festival in Nigeria recently, there's so many African publishers that are on the scene that would love to. Now that I realize that there are a few Nigerian and other West African writers that I know who hold back West African rights just so they can have a West African publisher have the first rights to publish.
Oh, wow.
It's just something that I would not, and that mightn't make good business sense.
But it might be
But
good soul sense.
it might be about just stimulating
Yeah.
economies.
Yeah, and what connects with you.
Yeah. So it's just those things I would say. But again, sometimes this might be totally wrong, but sometimes thinking about those things too much before you write a word is just foolishness.
True.
It's just distraction. None of that can happen unless you're focusing on the work, unless you're focusing on your writing. All of that is extra. But it is something now that I'm like, I never thought of that because I didn't know it was a possibility. So yeah, that's just something to think about.
I know I asked you, like, what's the next phase? And we had that conversation. And I guess as your friend, I will see all of this. I will be part of all of this. I'm quite conscious that we can't talk forever because we could, as we do.
Exactly.
And I can't keep the people on the podcast for long. I guess my penultimate question would be, if there was anything in this current world that you're in, granted that we are in a beautiful golden moment for Black Caribbean literature, is there anything that you would change about the publishing industry? Or that you would like to see?
A million things. But I also... always be careful what I say and what I don't say. Yeah, I think one of the things that people would be surprised at is that writers don't make a lot of money. That a lot of writers don't make a lot of money. I think we see the success stories, we see the bestsellers, we see the film rights go in, we see the success. We don't realize how poorly paid most
That's so wild to think about
of writing. I mean, you know how things work in the creative industries. You have the success stories, and then you have a bunch of people that's like down just grinding, and it's a job like anything else. That's something I think I could say off the bat, that because the thing is also, it's a business. They have to sell books. They have to think about what will sell, how much will it sell, how many of these books that will sell to be published, so we can publish this really brilliant book that we know won't sell like that. Publishers also have that thing that they have to think about. But yeah, there's definitely something that needs to be done about the fact that you have, hundreds and thousands of people that are doing this work to keep you entertained and feeding your minds and bringing you stories that change how you think about the world and that entertain you and that make you laugh and whatever. And they can't pay their rent. They can't live in the city that that they are sustaining the
Yeah.
creativity of the city that everybody wants to love to live in.
When
And that's
you-
not necessarily a publisher. I don't know if that's the
It's an
industry to
arts
solve,
thing,
but it's an
like-
arts thing, yeah.
The creative arts as a career requires so much of an individual. It is emotionally taxing. It's physically taxing. It requires you to be consistently always thinking about your work.
Yeah.
Coming from a dancer perspective, it's what I eat, how I sleep, how I train, my supplemental training, my injury prevention, all
Yeah.
of these things. When you're writing, it's taking in
Yeah.
the external
just a
world
lot.
and reproducing and
Yeah.
putting aside that time to be that thoughtful and considerate. And I know this is like the constant question, but like creative arts and teachers just should be at the top of the pay scale.
2 jobs that I've done. So it's beyond
True.
the
So
top
like
of the
double
pay
money
scale.
for you. It's just insane that the professions that sustain the world.
Yeah.
Think about if we didn't have creative arts in the pandemic, what
Oh,
would people
gosh.
have done? Would have turned into straight The Walking Dead, and it would have been murders everywhere, right?
It's crazy.
Like
yeah.
all these things. The fact that the teachers are the ones who are educating the upcoming generations, like it's just wild. You highlighted it earlier. We live in this capitalist society.
Yeah, it's all. I suppose there are other things that I just thought about, which is so hard because again, it's a business, so trends are a big thing across the industry. Like every now and again,
like
I
right
get
now, it's a Black Caribbean thing.
yeah, but it's not even there's that, but there's also like I was reading, for instance, that now the appetite is there for books or stories around dark fantasy, paranormal. There's a point there was dark academia. Like there's always a
What is
a
dark
buzz.
academia?
I still don't know. I'm still not 100% sure. I'm thinking of books like Babel. I'm
Okay.
thinking that's probably along that line. But again, because it's a business, it functions on
What do people want?
on
Supply and
trends.
demand.
So it becomes gosh, I guess I'm just thinking of somebody who's sitting somewhere really wants to write this book and they think, but nobody's gonna like this book. This book isn't doing any of these things. Or I don't really like those things, and thinking that no Gail writes your book. It's gonna be there's always audience, there's always readers. It's just about you finding that community of people who want what it is you have. And don't let the trend spotting things make you feel that, okay, I have to write this or I have to write this or it's not going to be my time or that time passed. So just do your work and try and
Nice.
think about those things less because it's not your job. It's not your job.
Your job is to write.
Your job is to do the thing that's in your purview and in your control
In your
to do.
gift.
Yeah.
To write. Yans, so I know that you know about James Lipton, right?
James Lipton.
That was a really big assumption. James, inside the actor studio. You know that TV
Uh-huh.
show, remember that TV show? Inside the actor studio? Okay, this is me. Oh my
I missed
gosh.
that totally. Woo.
In fact, it was a TV show that was hosted by this gentleman named James Lipton. And he was talking to actors about their craft,
Okay.
about their work.
Okay.
And he has talked to everyone from Warren Beatty to Denzel Washington to anyone who's current right now
Okay.
as well. And also the one interview that he did, he requested Dave Chappelle be his interviewer.
Okay.
So James Lipton always had these 10 questions. And normally it'll be in my lovely notebook that is handwritten. Actually, it's laminated because you know me.
Well, all right.
But I'm going to read them off my phone for today.
So do
So
we have to answer each one?
yes, you have to answer
right.
each one. It's 10 questions.
There you go.
And it doesn't have to be quick.
We talk. Oh, okay.
But off the yeah. So what is your favorite word? What kind of-
Ramage.
Oh,
That is a good word.
You have to explain what ramage is for the people.
God, well, it's such a contextual word.
It's such a good word, though.
And I'm gonna explain it wrong. I would like to explain the etymology of ramage, but I
Go,
don't.
do it.
I'm not sure. But I feel ramage sound like a word that Kitchener probably would have make up. And Vavaner, them kind of sound words. But when you're ramage, it's a combination of that kind of breakaway dance when you say you're ramage.
You like yourself.
But it's also the other part of ramage is you're showing off. You're doing that thing that you do so well. And you're doing it good. And it's a kind of look me.
Watch me now.
Ramage is a
Such
good
a
word.
good word.
Sorry to kitsch if you didn't make
You
up
didn't
that
make-
one.
or whoever
But
did make it up.
yeah, or whoever did make it.
What's your least favorite word?
Least favorite word. I'm going to overthink this and say something. mm, I don't know. I don't think I have a least favorite word.
Really?
I like words.
That's true.
I like
Which
words.
is why I would think that you would have a least favorite though, because you like words.
I don't know word that bad. It's like how I'd have no person that ugly. For me, anyway. I find everybody good looking. Everybody have something about their
show
face.
my shallowness right now.
Everybody nice. I mean, something about your face.
This is the difference between Zara and Ayanna as friends.
I like
Ayanna is
it. Might have some words I don't
fully whole
use.
good human.
Like
what
for-
words do you not use?
Maybe nice is a lazy word because it's so overused that it don't. But then, in the mouth of somebody, you're home.
It's nicer.
Yeah. Nice have a sweetness to it
nicer?
in the right
Yeah.
tongue. You know what I
And
mean?
you're very right. You're
so
very
even
right.
nice, which for somebody else might sound boring. You might you're walking in with your, a
You're looking
Caribbean man
nice.
say looking nice.
Oh God!
You know,
Yeah,
that's
that's true. That's true. That's true. And what turns you on?
Ooh, intelligence. And
Man.
even more than intelligence, kindness. I think kindness turns me on more than intelligence.
Yeah.
Because intelligence is actually not very rare, but kindness is very, very rare.
You're such a good human.
True kindness, yeah.
What turns you off?
I was going to say arrogance, but because confidence and arrogance
Could get blurred.
could get blurred, maybe not arrogance, small-mindedness,
Mm-hmm.
meanness.
Mm-hmm. Petty.
Yeah. Good petty could work at. Have a way.
In fairness.
It's have a
Good
way that
petty
people,
is
some people
very
can use
good.
petty as an art.
Good petty is an art.
Yeah.
That's true.
But small-mindedness and meanness is just a laziness.
What sound or noise do you love?
What sound or noise do I love? I love the sound. It's a sound that I have not heard in a long time. A faraway radio. Like remember, because we grew up with that turning the dial kind of radio. When it's not close, it's like that sound of music coming from far away. And the radio has a particular sound. It's not digital sound. It has a
little crackliness.
maybe a little like an old radio sound. Yeah.
What about a sound or noise that you hate?
I hate hearing children cry.
So it's so funny. One of my
hate
guests
hearing
before was
children cry.
talking about the actual hurts the children cry at, and there are the specific hurts that for human ears instigates a negative response, so that you go and handle that.
That
child.
makes total sense.
And when he said it, I was like,
abide
aha!
it.
And what is your favorite curse word?
Oh, my favorite curse word. There are not that many. When I think of favorite curse words, I don't know if I have a favorite curse word because I find I don't curse plenty.
How are you, my friend?
Here's the funny thing is, I think I learned to curse as a big teenager, mainly because my mother was so anti-cussing. She said, you have a wide vocabulary.
Why use the curse word?
Use your words. Use the word. I don't think but they have certain, I find a good mother cunt, well-timed, is just perfectly applied.
Hits it right there.
Yes.
That's my favorite curse word. Too.
Not that I'm particular, not that I was cost plenty.
But I think it's because of how we say it as well.
Maybe.
Because we also hold a mother cunt for very specific moments.
Yeah.
This is not just a curse word.
It's not randomly deployed.
Yes, this is another level of curse
Yeah.
to explain and show you the depth of this feeling. That's my favorite one as well. What profession other than your own would you like to do?
Oh, I would love to build things.
Like what?
I wish I could build furniture.
Ooh, like a carpenter.
I always wanted to be, not that I always wanted to be. There was a point in maybe my early 20s, mid-20s, where I got very anxious about the fact that all of the things that I knew how to do required that I couldn't do anything with my hands. I felt not very independent as a person who just had a skill. I mean, I wasn't a writer yet. So I never thought of, I would not have been thinking about that as something that it is making a thing. I didn't think of it that way. But I remember I called up, remember White Up?
Yeah.
So White Up is something called Youth Training and it was one of those government programs in Trinidad that basically was like a trade programs, a lot of them. And I remember calling them up and saying, hi, I'm looking to find out about woodworking classes and so on. I told them I'd finished university at the time, and they said I was overqualified. So I said, how can I be overqualified for something I've never done before? And they said, that's not for people like you. It was really disturbing to me that it meant that how could you undervalue building a thing?
A whole nother layer of society.
Of course,
that we
now
need
I
to
know
unpack.
I can't do maths and I can't measure. So maybe I would have been a terrible carpenter,
You
a
would have
terrible
actually-
builder.
You want to mash up yourself.
Yes.
And what about one that you wouldn't want to do?
I would never be a police.
No other thing to ask there.
Yeah,
No
that
follow-ups.
was it.
And if heaven existed,
Mm-hmm.
and you would actually know the right person who would be at the gate, but I don't know who it is. So whoever is to join you, whoever meets you at the gate,
Right.
what would you want them to say when you arrive?
You know how long we waited for you? Which would mean that I lived till very, very old.
Or you've missed multiple near-death experiences.
They say, you're finally rich. That's the kind of greeting I would want.
Oh,
Your
God.
bugger. How long we waited for you? That would be it.
Your railway
Yeah,
time.
You get away. Oh, look, we catch you. But after a long, long, long time.
Well, I will wait there for you because I don't
wait.
plan to be here
Nah,
for
listen,
very long.
wherever you
You'll
want.
find me there.
I think you would be a very good ancestor, though. I think you'd be a good ancestor.
Thanks, friend.
I think so. I will join you many, many, many years later.
Great. I think you should stay and I could go, and that would probably be the right balance. But I love the fact that you think I'll be a good ancestor.
I think so. It's the way that you're a good friend and you're a good godmom. You're a person, you just look out. You always... What are you doing? You all right? You'll be a good ancestor.
Thanks, friend.
Bless.
I love you.
Love you.
Thank you so much for joining me.
You're most welcome. This is a very good rum.
And now I'm calling the studio, so it's time to wrap up and I need to pee. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for coming in from Norwich.
Yeah.
And I love seeing your face. And we're going to go
Always.
and get some food and talk some more.
All
Cool.
right. And thanks for anybody who's listening.
Yes, thank you for all the listeners.
Yeah.
And come back again soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
I need to pee.
Whew.
I'm coming back.
That's all, folks, for today's episode of I Do What I Do. Biggest thank you to you for listening and to my guests for sharing their journey. I am Zara Bartels, and a super duper special shout out to the incredible folks that supported me on this creation. Keegan Simon, individual, for my logo and social graphics, Nikolai Labari for my theme music, and Andres Albert for being there and doing all the things while we recorded at TYX Studios in King's Cross, London. Walk good, keep doing what you do. Until next time.